Yeah, we're live now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We're live now.
Yes. Right. All right. Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Python class. Right. Today we are going to be talking about APIs. Right. How to develop APIs, how to build APIs with Django. So uh, we are first of all going to talk about what APIs are, like what they really do, and probably why do we need them, right? So API is the short form for application programming interface, right? Application programming interface is a sort of software that allows two applications to talk to each other, literally like talk to each other. In other words, an API is like a messenger that delivers your requests to a provider that you're requesting it from, and then it also sends a response. So you sent a request, it goes to that provider, processes the request, and also brings back the response from that provider. So yeah, and APIs so there are different APIs. Like how do APIs work? So I just want to like bring this analogy. I think it's a very common analogy of a restaurant. You have a restaurant and you have a waiter working in that restaurant, and you as a customer, you came to the uh restaurant, right, to order food. The waiter brings to you. Okay, so the waiter comes to you, takes your order, goes to the kitchen, uh whatever they've done there, and then brings back your order. So in this analogy, you as a customer, you are like a service. The waiter is the API, and the kitchen is like another service. And in between you and the kitchen, right, you have the waiter. So that's basically how API works here, right? Um there are different types of API, right? We have um there are different types of API. We have REST, which is representational state transfer. We have REST, right? So we have RESTs, um, we have SOAP, right? We have SOAP. SOAP is Simple Object Access Protocol. We have GraphQL. Yeah, so just to mention a few, we have GraphQL. So those are like a few, you can check them up online. But the most common one and the one we are going to be working with basically is REST, right? It's REST framework. And so yeah, so basically that's API. That's about API. And now we want to talk about how that relates with Django. As I said at the beginning, we are going to learn how to develop APIs with Django. So, right. So we want to develop a software, an API with Django. And basically, Django itself, like as you have been taught, it's used for creating monolithic app, uh, like just app, right, that you use your templating to like get the HTML and everything. But it's possible for you to have your front end on a separate, app, and then you are able to communicate between that app and Django. For example, you have a React framework for front end, we have Vue, we have Angular, and you are able to make requests from all of these front end um, person. I mean, all of this front end framework to the back. Okay, so um, to the back end. So And to receive these requests, right? In between those requests, there has to be like certain sort of recognizable method, or how do I put it, format the information or the request or the response must be, so that when the response is sent from a front end, maybe React to back end, it is recognizable by the back end, and then when the response is sent back, it's recognized. So the most common format is JSON. Another way you can represent your information is we have XML, we have, you can even send plain texts, right? But the most common one is JSON. A JSON format is JavaScript object notation. So an object notation is something like having object dictionary with.
Sorry to interrupt you, Femi, but could you please zoom in? They can't really see your screen
Okay,
well.
I already zoomed in, but let me just do it again. Sorry about that. Is this like big enough? Is this okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, thank you. So what was I? So I was talking about representation. Like, so we are going to be working with JSON, JavaScript object notation, right? So basically to do that in Django, to receive a JSON response and to send a JSON response. I know we have been taught to like return render to an HTML page, but we are not going to be working with all that, right? We're not going to be working with all that. And we actually need to like import JSON response from Django.htp. No worries. Everything I do on this code base, I am going to push it to GitHub, right? And I would send the link on the channel, right? Yeah, so we import JSON response, and basically this is a sort of object notation, right? Because we have a dictionary with this, and when we send this format via JSON response, we are able to like get a response. Let me just share my browser screen so that. Let me know in the YouTube comment section if you have a question. I'm sure like mentors are helping me out with that. So let's just answer the questions in real time. So I won't have to like skip it. Trying to share my screen now, my browser screen. Okay. So all right, so I'm going to start the server. I'm running this on port 8007. Yep, weird port. And so when I go to that route, I have this response, which is basically JSON response, right? So of course I have set up my URLs, right? I've set up my URLs, registered the app and everything. So I believe this is already, you're already familiar with all of this, and that's why I just skipped that. So right, but so basically that's how to like return response, like a JSON response in Django. But we want to go into Django REST framework, right? So what is Django REST framework? Django REST framework is built on Django, so it is used as a powerful and flexible what do I call it, framework now. It's tool for building web APIs, right? So and it provides us with like a web browsable API, like a browsable interface. It provides us with serialization. I'm going to talk more about that. Provides us with a lot of functionalities that you do not have to like if you're just using normal Django return responses, you are going to like start rewriting a lot of things. So it's just better to, make use of a tool that is available, and will make like easy for you. So basically, before we do anything, we want to implement Django REST framework now in this code base, and we of course have to install Django REST framework. So I'm going to go to the documentation, right? And we are going to follow through what we have on the documentation. So quick search DRF, and there we have it. This is Django REST framework documentation. Right. And the first thing we want to do is, of course, you would want to check the requirement supports from Python 6 upwards and Django from Python 2.2. And yeah, so installation, to install Django REST framework, we run pip install Django REST framework. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in the terminal here, and run pip install Django REST framework. Okay, so that is installed. Then what we do next? So next thing is to add the REST framework to our installed apps in settings. So we go to our projects. Please let me know if I'm too fast. So we go to our project and go to settings, and then scroll to installed apps, the list. So we add REST framework to the list of installed apps. I hope I spelled this right. So we add REST framework to the list of installed apps, right? So that means REST framework now is registered and it's recognizable by our projects. So, and the next thing is, if you're intending to use the browser API, you probably want to add REST framework plugin and log out views, right? So I'm going to add this to the URLs, and later on we'll see what that does. Yeah, so basically that's like simple way of installing Django REST framework. So I'm going to like create a simple scenario where we can have, where we can make use of APIs. So we have a blog app that has, okay, let me just go to the models. Right, so we have a blog app that has a posts model, right, and an author field, the title, body, and this field, right? So let me just comment out the author field because that's foreign key for now. So we have like, we want to work with one model, like one model for now. So let me just make migrations. Migrate. Cool. All right, so before we do anything, when we query for this particular field, right, on backend, when we create an instance of post model, the response is a query set, an object that is being returned, and we want to deserialize this object. We want to like, okay, all the information that is inside of this object, I want to be able to send this as a JSON response, right? So that is where the idea of serialization comes in. Like, serialization helps to interpret, right, a query set, and also in REST framework, it also helps in deserializing, right? Deserializing and deserializing means it takes a JSON request, JSON response or request, and turns it to like an object or something. So yeah, so like object instances to serialize. So when I'm going to create a file named serializer.py, which will be used to like so we are going to create that file, and inside that file we are going to link our model to a class that will be created, and that way REST framework is providing us a way to like serialize any object instance from this post model to be able to serialize and deserialize it. So I'm going to create a new file here called serializers.py. Okay, and we have to import from REST framework. We have to import serializers, and then we create a class. Okay, so we create a class post serializer, right? The serializer, which will inherit serializer. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to explain this. That was GitHub Copilot, and we have to import posts. Right. So what this class does is it's inheriting like the model serializer, right? So what model serializer provides us a way to like perform operations on models, right? And it helps basically with serializing, as I said, and deserializing model instances. So all the fields that will be available for serializing and deserializing will be like posted here, right? So what this underscore all means is we want all the fields in posts model to be serializable and deserializable. I feel like I'm saying that down too much. Right, let's do and move away from serializer. So basically that's how to create serializer class, right? Now next thing we want to do is create the view, right? So in this view function, I already have like, I'm going to create the view function for us from REST framework. So I'm going to import from REST framework. Okay, let me just go to the doc. So I will show you exactly which of these am I sharing. So this. I'm not sharing this. Okay. Let me go to the example tab. Okay, so let's just follow this example. Right. Okay, I think I skipped an important step. In your settings, you have to create your REST framework configuration. So to create the REST framework configuration, you can copy this from the official documentation, right? And then you go to your settings and you add the REST framework object, right? Default permission class is, can make this allow him. Okay. So yeah, so what the permission class means is for each of the APIs, there is a way you can limit the permission to that API. Like if you want everyone to be able to access that particular API, that's why I changed this to allow any or any other method. So we'll talk about that. So I'll go back to my views. Right. So and then we've added REST framework to install the apps, and we are now ready to create an API. So the first step is to serialize, define the API representation, and we have actually done this, right? Though I used a different method for my serialization. And Now we want to create a views, right? A view set to define the behavior of the API. So to do that, there are different, okay, so let me just guide. To do that, we import from REST framework, we import view sets. Right, so what I wanted to talk about was there are different ways to actually define the behavior, like to define the behavior of our model object or serialized object, because REST framework has evolved and it has helped us with like a lot of things, and we don't actually have to do some things like write some things ourselves, right? So for example, when we are probably creating like an instance of, we are creating an instance of post, or we want to get an instance of post, or we want to get all instances of post, right? I'm talking about post model now. We do not have to start, rewriting, okay, dev create posts function, blah blah blah, and then we open create post function, and then we create another one, dev get post. No. So we can easily just make use of view sets, right? So view sets, let me open that up. I want to believe there is no question. Okay, so I'm trying to read some comments on YouTube. It says, moving too fast. Am I moving too fast? Okay, let me just continue. So view sets. I'm sure this is going to look strange and confusing to a lot of people, but like this is the first time, I promise you, the first time I read the Django REST framework documentation, I did not understand anything. The second time, I did not understand anything. Like I had to continually, like before I could actually start importing from REST framework to import view set, and I will still have to go back to the docs to check how they did it. Like it's, the more you practice it, right? The more you practice it, it's the more you get like the more it becomes a part of you, and the more you get acquainted with it. So if you don't get it the first time, it's totally fine. Like it's totally normal. It's not magic. It's not. So yeah. So basically, let's just move on. So view sets. Yeah, I was talking about view sets, right? And as we can see here, yeah, it says view sets allows, like, comes with a bunch of like packages that allows you to, that provides actions to at least create, and you don't have to like start inventing the wheel. I think I want to click on model view set. Yeah, so it provides you with list, retrieve, create, update, and all of these things, and you don't have to start reinventing the wheel to like rewrite all of this. So I'm going to use model view sets in here, right? So now I want to import my models, and first thing is to create a class. Oh my god, yeah. So I'm just going to explain this. Serialize, right? So now we created a model view set, right? Now in this model view set, we have two variables sort of. The first one is a query set, which I believe you know what this query is doing. It's queries the post table and returns all of the objects that are there, right? And this second line is the serializer class, which is post serializer. That is, it serializes this query set and serializes the response of this query set in such a way that it is JSON, like it's in a JSON format. and that way you are able to now send the request out, right? So yeah, so that's basically it. Like that's basically how to serialize a few. And with these few, lines, you are able to perform a lot of actions. Sort of, you're able to create new posts. You're able to get all the posts. You're able to update a particular post instance. You're able to delete a particular post instance, and you're able to get details of a particular post instance, right? So yeah, it's not really necessary because yeah, but thanks. So now we have to create the URLs for this, right? To use this, we have to create a URLs that would link to be able to access this view, right? So, and to do that, we can use, there's something in Django REST framework called routers. So I should be able to get one on this page. Right. So routers, it's like creating a path, right? A URL to access that particular view function, right? So, and it's just the normal way of creating like this path, but we are using REST framework routers, right? And what that does, it really helps us to, we don't have to like create different routes, to start creating different routes for update, create, and everything, right? So we just have one route, and without one route, we're able to do a lot of things. Okay, so checking the chart, what extension do you use that provides code suggestions? Oh, that was a GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot. By the way, it was free until yesterday, right? Before I started paying for it. Yeah, GitHub Copilot. You can sign up and link it to your GitHub accounts. Yeah, so you can read up on that. Anyways. So creating the routes, I want to import this. Right, default routers, and I want to import my view class dot views here. From dot views, imports post view set, and I think I'm just going to leave this empty. And I want to register a route. So the first thing I will do is to create an instance of default router, because default router is a class, right? Class default router. The default router is a class in REST framework. And to register the routes, I do router.register the posts, then the post view, and a base name. This base name is basically used to like identify this post. So you can use this base name probably when you are testing and you want to like create a reverse URL thing. So you can use this post name. So let's go back to the docs. So we register the route and then we add it to router.urls. So basically what we'll do is plus URLs. So and this way we can access this route from base URL. Let me just, in this case is 127.0.0.1 8007 forward slash. So it would be forward slash the name of the app, but in this case there is nothing. So forward slash nothing, then we come to posts, right? So forward slash post. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so forward slash posts. If we go to this URL, we should be able to perform some operations on these query sets. Probably want to get all the query sets or update or create, perform CRUD, as I have said. So there is a tool that is generally used for making API calls or requests, because to using your browser is highly inconvenient, right? To like posts maybe you want to post like payload or something, right? So we're going to use Postman, right? I already have that installed, but to download Postman, you can just Google search Postman, right? So postman.com, and you can download Postman. Okay. Right, so okay, it's not taking me because, so you can download Postman. I just want to show you where you can download, so you don't have to like start. Yeah, so once you Google download Postman, it recommends the one you will download for your operating system, because I'm Windows 64, so I see that here, right? So basically, so I use Postman. So now I want to run my server. There's an error here. So I want to run my server and see where we are. And of course, I'm going to open up Postman on my computer. Yeah, and I said earlier that REST API provides a browsable API. So now, when I open up 127,000, sorry, 127.0.0.1 7,000 on my browser, I see that this was the earlier request, but if I check again now, because I've installed REST API, I see it provides me with a browsable API, and I can see like what is really happening. I can log in, like it provides out of the box, it provides authentication system, and sort of, so you can find all of that in the documentation. But yeah, so these are the routes that I have registered in default router, right? And because I registered post in default router, I can see it here. So if I click on dot posts, okay, so cool. Right, so I can actually even perform posts from here, right? Because of the interface, or I can send a raw data, right? So we have title and body. Why do we have title and body here? Because in our models, those are like the two information that we can send, created and updated are created by Django, and these two fields are basically the fields we can send. So that is why we have those two fields listed here, and we can let's go ahead and create an instance of model of post, sorry, free plan and body this. So if you click on post, we should be able to create an instance of. Great. So yeah, so you see something interesting happening here. It creates an instance of post, and because I mentioned earlier that these two fields are generated by Django, and also it returns the ID of the post. So it's created. So this is the flow. When I sent the post, right, it came here, right? It came here with the information. This is because this is the registered routes, and then it comes in here with the details, right? And then it deserializes the data that was sent. It deserializes it, and then it creates a post. There's a lot of things going on in the background, right? And I think the more you learn more about REST framework, the more you be able to like understand what is really, we can't really cover everything, but just to have a basic idea, it takes the data, deserializes it, and creates so what it does is, let me just show you something. So this is the data that was sent. This is the data that was sent, title and body, right? And what happens is the next stage, it comes to the view set, and then it does this post dot objects, right? Post dot objects, where is it? Dot create, right? And then it takes the field posts, because we have the post field in models, right? Sorry, title and body, right? So it takes the title would equal to right. So title would equal to the payload, and we get title, and body equals to payload and body. So this way it creates an instance with this information, and when it does that, it returns the response back. You know, when you do this now, a query set would be created. Like this would create a query set, or an object rather, an object. This will create an object of posts, which is not recognized by REST framework or anything. So it would have to serialize the post object again, and then it will now return what we have here. So it returns what we have here now. So like that's kind of the whole flow, right? I'm trying to like just break down what goes on in the background. But the more you use REST framework, the more you are able to understand a lot of things about and how you can customize and do some wonderful stuff with it. So basically we have created, and so that's I used the basically this is how the browserable API is. But back to Postman. So let's do some few things with Postman, and then I think we can end the class there, right? So let me just go to the new workspace. Going on. So I'm going to create a collection. Request and continue. Okay, so posts. So in Postman, we have like, this is the interface of Post. Wait, I'm not sharing my Postman screen. Am I? I don't think so. Wait, I'm no longer in the meeting. Hello. Is Postman required? Is Postman required? Yeah. I just use like the REST framework browserable API. I mean the interface. There is how do I put it? There is an extension in VS Code, right? That you can use. There is an extension in VS Code. I think I have it installed or no. I can't really remember the name now. But yeah, like it's like a basic requirement in nowadays. If you are going to work with, like it provides everything out of the box. It really helps you to like do a lot of things. So so I'll need to bring my Postman down here. So I'm going to share my screen now, my Postman screen. Share. Where is it? Where is it? What is the string? We can stop sharing and share again. Okay, this. All right. So I have Postman opened up. I'm sorry, I don't know how to increase the interface. Or should I? Let me see. Control plus should work. Okay, that's cool. Control plus works for basically everything. Yeah. So yeah, to make requests, we need to. So this is like the Postman interface. When you open it up, this is what you see. And I have created. Let me delete that so I can show you again. So like it's an empty interface now, and before I can make requests, I have to like add the requests, right? And in Postman, you have this field is the name of your request. So you can just call this post. And the field underneath it, you see these are the types of requests you want to make, if it's a get, post, put, patch, or delete. So basically, those are, I think they're called HTTP verbs, if I'm right. Let me just Google that to be sure. Yeah, HTTP verbs. Yeah, so HTTP verbs: get, post, put, patch, and delete. And get, of course, is to like you don't need to send any payload. You get is to make a request to that endpoint, and then it returns the response. Post, of course, as I've demonstrated with here, you will need to like put in some data, right? And put is basically to update an existing data. Patch is slightly the same thing as put. And delete, of course, to delete maybe an instance or something from the server or from the database or whatever. All right, so we are going to go through get, post, put, and delete. Right. So the first is a get request, and we are making a request to 8007 posts. So when we type in the request, then we want to press send. So when we press send, you see send a request, and then it returns, wow, and then it returns the response here. Why do I have 4? Interesting. Anyways, it returns the response here, right? Oh, I know what is happening. I know why I have 4 because I did this here. Let me just comment this out. So, right, so we have 4 instances of posts in database. Like when I create that particular endpoint as a get, right, we are able to get all of the endpoints. So also another thing we can do on get is if I only want information about ID of one, I can just pass in /1, and when I do that, it returns only ID of one. So like to get particular details about okay, so there's a question. So Django is a Python framework, and Django REST framework is a Django framework. Before you end the class, may you explain in summary the steps of creating an API? Okay, so Django is a Python framework, yeah, and Django REST framework is like a tool, right, that is built on Django. So it's a framework, or it's built on Django. So I don't think it's sort of Django framework. But anyways, yeah, we can put it that way because it can't work without Django, right? Yeah. So before you end the class, may you explain in summary? In summary, I don't really understand the question because creating an API. Okay. Anyways, I'm just going to summarize that at the end of the class. So basically, as I was saying, you can get the detail of one of like the object. If I input 3, it returns 3. If I input, what if I input an ID that is not there? So just say details not found. Like all of this response I'm getting, it is not. So you can imagine the pain of you having to write all of these things. Like if you import if you input 4/8 now, you have to write a logic to undo that, like to undo and to make sure when the user searches that it has to return something. All of that. So basically, REST framework just makes it easy. Yeah, Thunder Clients is the name of the VS Code extension to run for running API requests. Thanks for that. I got that from YouTube, by the way. Collins, thanks for that. So Thunder Clients, yeah. Oh, okay. I have it installed, but it's not installed in my WSL. Anyways, let's move. So yeah, so that is that on get. Now post request as demonstrated in, we need to add a payload, and to do that, in Postman we go to the body, right? The body tab here, and then you click on raw, and the type of data you want to send, of course, just changes to JSON. As I said earlier, there are different ways of sending like in API of sending text. You can send a text, you can send HTML, XML, even JavaScript, but want to send JSON, right? And what the payload we want to send is title. This, let's say, second post. Okay. The body is, this is the second post, right? And when we do this, we are basically sending this payload along with this to this URL. And when we click on send, as I've explained earlier, okay, so there's an error. Okay, I think I need to add / here. Yep. So when we do this, we are able to create an instance, as I said, and as an ID of 5 because we already have like other instances that have been created. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that is how to post, and that is basically the create. So, and what we want to do again is put. Now we want to update an instance. So let's take, for example, I want to update ID 3, right? I'll have to put the ID number here, of course, and probably want to change the title to second post, right? So when I add the ID number and about the ID number, I also need to put a payload. And when I click on send, the body field is required. Oh, okay. So I still need to add the body field. Okay. So, and we update that. We see the post with the ID of 3 has been updated. Let's do the get again and see. So when we get all instances, we see ID of 3 has been updated, like from what was there before. So basically that's put request, and also the delete requests will totally delete an instance of post in the database. And let's delete also with the ID of 3. When we delete with the ID of 3, it returns a 204, like it runs an empty. But when you see with a status code of 204 means no content, right? So means they probably, yeah, so the instance has been deleted anyways. All right, and if we go to get again and try to get a post with the ID of 3, it's just going to return no detail found. And also if we try to like list the whole post, we'll see we have ID 1, 2, but there's no 3, we have 4, 5. So basically we have been able to perform CRUD from APIs. Yeah, so that's basically all what I prepared for this class. Let me see, let me just check the review. All the APIs and what I do, Django, JSON Response, on what hour, yeah. Right, so we have 6 minutes to 9. I don't know if there are any questions. So yeah, I said I was going to summarize creating an API. So basically, in Django REST framework, you create a model, right? And then before you can get information in and out of this model, you have to serialize and deserialize. And to do that, we created serializer.py, and we created a class to undo that is inheriting a model serializer from REST framework. And we link this to the post model, and we say all of the fields that should be serialized is like, this is all. If we want only certain set of fields to be serialized, we just say, okay, I only want the title field, the body field to be serialized. That is what you get in the response, right? So if I change this now, right? If we make a request, if we list all of this again, we are not going to get created as an arbiter again, right? So let me just do that. Can you see? We really have title and body because that's what I specified. So yeah, so serializer there, and we create a view function, a view class to like undo the request that is being sent. So the view function also inheriting model view set from REST framework, and a query set, which is post object of all, and then the serializer, of course, to interpret the query set that is being returned in JSON, and yeah, in JSON. So basically that's like a summary. Chat, there is no question. I'm going to push this to GitHub. Let me just do that now. So you can have access to what I've done. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so I've done that with terminal. Anyways, so yeah, so let me check GitHub so I can get the link to the class to that particular GitHub repository. GitHub. And yeah, so this is the last, yeah, updated 35 seconds ago. So yeah, yeah, okay, so this is the link to, I'm going to drop this on in the Python class right now, like channel. This is the link to the Git repo DRF class. Slightly tiny image and paste. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you guys for coming to class. And if you have any question, of course, you can ask on the channel because I do not have any more time to take questions now. And I wish you guys wonderful experience with Django and Django REST framework. Yeah, so basically, I would stop sharing my screen and stop talking. Bye bye.